Hello and welcome to the morning after show. My name is Joshua Reimer. I almost just choked on my own spit. I'm joined by none other than Jared Blockers on my right. Jared, take it away. I'm obviously off bad to start the morning.
That is a beautiful clip to use on the stream deck moving forward.
No thanks.
Um, it's a good morning. We're here. The most important thing is that we get to continue our New Year's resolution into February. It's February
Yeah.
1st. Yep. Welcome everybody. Morning after stream presented by betonline.ag. The GOAT himself retires today. And that is the biggest news of the day. Nothing else matters whatsoever. Tom Brady. We talked about this yesterday. Turns out he actually I'm just assuming things a little bit here, but it turns out that he was on vacation and wasn't able to contact everybody that was necessary before making an announcement. And I think because I know he was in on vacation with his family in whatever remote island location that they're in right now, and apparently he wasn't able to reach everybody before actually retiring. So apparently now they finally on ESPN released that the Bucks knew ahead of time. Maybe not the 100% the decision, but they knew that it was probably going to be more likely than not that he was going to retire this year, just based on conversations they had after the loss to the Rams. So, yeah, the news is official. Tom Brady's retired, and he's not going to play until he's 45. Retires at the age of 44. 30 full years of football if you include everything else.
Insanity. I mean, what a great career. Truly the GOAT. I feel like I don't feel like there's really any conversation to be had. The fact that he has been the starting quarterback in, I think I saw like 17% of Super Bowls, like that's absolutely bananas. You look at the accomplishments and it doesn't even look real. It looks like someone played a video game and played Madden on rookie mode for a franchise, and they just had Tom Brady and he went off. So absolutely amazing, and I it was the right thing to do for him. I felt like I didn't feel like there was any need to come back and play another year at the end of the day.
Yeah, he basically said that he wants to focus his time on family and that it's best. Actually, we'll actually read the quote here. It says, "It's best that I leave the field of play to the next generation of dedicated and committed athletes." Not saying that he's not dedicated or committed, but I think frankly, he's just over it.
Yeah.
I think he's just noticed that it's time, and that if he can't, because Brady goes to an elite standard, right? He's very Kobe in that way, where if he can't go as hard as he wants to go every single day, then he's just not going to do it anymore. So I think that the decision was made, and we're going to see him absolutely crush real life. So I hope that he is able
Yeah.
to enjoy that, and it's going to be awesome to watch from the sidelines. People were saying in the chats like how long until he makes his TV broadcast career. I don't think he's doing that, man. I don't think he's
No,
going to be
he
on TV.
I mean, Gazelle already pays the bills, even with him being a quarterback in the NFL. Like, I don't think he has any want to go back into football. I think he would just want to be a player. And he has other business ventures too. Like, he has his own stuff that he can handle. I don't think he'll ever be one of these quarterbacks that are on TV like Romo. I think he's kind of just going to go do his own thing now.
Yeah, I mean, he might do like a side thing like the Mannings do, but I think that he's not off the grid. He'll still be completely relevant.
Yeah.
Rodgers is the more off the grid guy that we won't hear from ever again once he retires. But yeah, Brady will find a way to make himself relevant as he always does. I wouldn't be surprised again, like I said, if he has, I don't know, like 5% of the Super Bowl commercials. I
Yeah,
really wouldn't be
seriously.
surprised. Kai says, "Do I hold on to TB12 and Dynasty for a little bit just in case?"
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear that he's done now. Maybe it would have been ideal if you I don't know, this year would have been the year to trade him in Dynasty to get the last haul, right?
Yeah. So funny story. The news came out on, what was it? I think Saturday is when the news came out from Schefter, and Schefter got so much heat and stuff, and I saw all my dynasty leagues kind of freak out about it and kind of just drop him outright. And then we got the news that he didn't make the decision yet. So you saw a bidding war in each one of these leagues to try to get Tom Brady, and none of them worked out. You saw Tom Brady end up retiring today, and a whole lot of wasted FAAB at the end of the day, which I thought was funny at the
Yikes.
very least. Yeah, yikes indeed.
That's
Funny because I
I'm
wasn't
not,
the one bidding on him.
I mean, I was able to snag Brady in a lot of my leagues this year and last year, and it
Yeah.
worked out for me. Um, Dynasty, not though. So I guess we'll see how it goes. But uh, Sean made like a subtle comment last week about Jake Fromm, and I just am worried about Tampa's future.
Yeah.
No offense to him. I don't know what they like. What do you think that they do? Because now we have to have that conversation. I just don't think Fromm's ready for the NFL, and I think that they might end up going. I don't know. Do they just completely 180 and start over?
I think you kind of have to, right? Like, it's not really a spot where you're gonna. The problem that I have with the whole thing is the fact that we know that this team. One of the reasons that Tom left, not only was it because he's dedicated to other things now, but also kind of because we know this Tampa Bay team's in going to be in a little bit of a rebuild mode because of where the salary cap is at, right? Like, they have to rebuild and they're going to have to drop certain guys off of the defense, even some guys off of the offense as well. And I think
Yeah.
that's what's really going to force this team almost into a rebuild. I'm not sure they're going to have much of a choice, especially with not having someone official at the QB position.
Yeah. Did I say that Fromm? I meant Kyle Trask. That's what I
I
meant.
figured you
So I
meant
apologize.
Trask.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same player. So
yeah.
not the same player, but I don't know if I believe 100% in Trask. But they're not going to start playing Gabbert. He will be most likely their backup quarterback. I do see Rob Gronkowski retiring again, and I just don't know how they're going to afford all those guys. They'll make some of them work, but yeah, I mean, there's going to be like I think Evans is going to stay. I think he might be a buck for life, to be honest. But the other guys, I mean, you have a lot to figure out. Fournette and Jones are both free agents. I think Gio Bernard is as well. And so, I mean, you had these 2 years where, or this year, you brought all of your 22 starters back. There will be some turnover, and I think that, I mean, it was a good run, and I think that there's still a really good chance that this defense is really good.
Now, if you do want to stay competitive, how much sense does a Jimmy Garoppolo deal make? Getting Tom Brady's original predecessor and I mean, like, it's not a super expensive deal that you have to make for him, in my opinion. He's a winning quarterback, and he can kind of rely on his defense. Do you think a Jimmy G deal makes sense, or do you think like it truly is time for just go with a guy like Kyle Trax, see what you have there, and or go to another young QB?
Mm, I mean, it's definitely an option. Like, why? I still think that you have something here, especially now. Look at the division. I mean, the Saints are just they're done. Like, and
No,
just to put it plainly, and I think that maybe. I mean, I don't think that the Panthers turn it around 100% anytime soon. And then you have the Falcons, who, if Matt Ryan's quarterback, they're stuck in this thing for a while. And so I still think you have a shot at the division, believe it or not. And Jimmy G could get you there. Also, maybe Russell Wilson going to Tampa wouldn't be the worst thing either. Um,
no,
I don't know. There are guys that can do it. Maybe you bring Jameis back. I don't know. Jameis back in Tampa might not be the worst idea either.
yeah.
So for me, it's more about I think Tampa still has. I would love to see. I don't think that they have futures on Bet Online right now for next year um, for divisions, but I think they have as good of a shot as any because I think while they will lose some key pieces on defense, I still think that they'll be they have a top 10 rushing defense still. And I guess we'll see what they do in regards to the guys that they keep. Because if you lose Fournette and most of that running back group, it's could be tough to try to recapture that because you're already, in my opinion, you're losing Gronk. I think you take Tom out the window, Gronk follows him. And then Godwin's coming off of an injury, lost Antonio Brown. Mike Evans, as awesome as he was this year, left at the end of the season with an injury too. So they have a lot of guys that are kind of up in the air right now, and you could see a few of them fall off. But I think for the most part, they should retain most of their guys.
Yeah, it should be interesting to watch what this Bucks team does. Um, Anything else on Brady? And if not, we should talk about the rest of the NFL news that we have to talk about.
No, not much. I just think that this isn't the last we'll hear from him this week. I think
Yeah.
there's more coming to this.
Well, okay, so walk it back real quick. I guess there is one more thing. What do you make of the fact that Bill Belichick and the Patriots weren't anywhere in his farewell announcement? No thanks to either one of them. I don't know. A lot of people are reading into it and saying it's a bad look, and I think it's interesting.
I don't. There's no. I don't. I'm not buying into any of that. We know that Tom loves Bill, and maybe
Here's
they had a
here's a
falling.
list of people that Tom Brady thanked in the announcement. Bucks
Yeah,
teammates,
I
Bucks
saw it.
fans. Yeah, City of Tampa, Glazier family, Jason Lick, Bruce Arians, Bucks coach and staffs, Alex Guerrero, his agents, and his family. Like you gotta mention, I feel like you gotta mention your old team with
I
Kraft or
guess, but
Belichick
he
or
he already said goodbye to them 2 years ago.
I guess I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely interesting. I'm curious
Yeah,
to see if there's anything else put out about it.
I'm not reading into it. I do think at whatever time he decides, maybe that's why this whole. Um, there's also this rumor about the retirement video announcement wasn't ready this time last week, so that's why they didn't roll with it. Um, because I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, Schefter possibly made a mistake on putting that statement out, but they do have inside sources to a point where they knew it was coming, right?
Hmm.
Might have just not been the right time. So I still think there's an announcement coming. I think you'll see some sort of thank you thing in the last episode of the Man in the Arena. Like it's gonna be something, and we'll see. I mean, I wouldn't put it out of the vortex either if he does his own retirement commercial in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, definitely possible. It's going to be interesting to watch. All right, let's talk about the other news around the NFL. We got news about the NFL Pro Bowl, the fact that Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins are going to replace Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Are these the right guys to ask to replace those two?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? By the way, Tom
Yeah.
Brady said that he's not playing the Pro Bowl because of a shoulder issue.
Ah,
So,
okay.
and not retirement. He said it was gonna. He said he want to play because of his shoulder.
Okay,
Yeah, I
sure.
mean, it is what it is. Like whatever. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm probably not even watching the Pro Bowl this weekend.
I don't think I am either, which I'm pretty okay with. I'm pretty a-okay with that. Um, let's talk about some Super Bowl stuff because we got news yesterday that Tyler Higbee and Ozuma suffered the same injury. Both suffered an MCL sprain in their separate games. Both are not ruled out and are both going to try to make a return for the Super Bowl. I would be floored with an MCL sprain if either one of these guys was able to make it back. Both of those injuries pretty serious, usually at least 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the severity of the sprain. I don't know. I know you try your best to play in those situations, but they're going to be pretty hobbled with an MCL sprain.
Yeah, I agree. It's very To esque in a broken leg situation,
Yeah.
but it's not even comparable. I don't think either of them play. They'll just hold off to just say they're not playing right now, or they're not ruled out yet. I do think that it's kind of almost impossible to see them both out there. Higby being the more optimistic one. Uzoma, while he's not ruled out yet, I think the injury was worse for him. And I mean, it's going to be a really, really big, like, it's huge for the backup QBs. Uzoma's one of the more they're both underrated pieces of the offense to make those other key players work. Um, I don't know. It's weird to see that now we have to talk about Drew Sample and Kendall Blanton in DFS props and terms.
Yeah, Kendall Blanton. That does not. It sounds definitely interesting to try to take advantage of. Let's talk about the fact that Cincinnati called off school for the day, and school for the entire city the day after the Super Bowl. Man, I wish North Carolina did this when the Panthers were in the Super Bowl against the Broncos. That would have been nice. We didn't get that type of treatment though.
Oh, I've definitely gotten that most of my
What?
life.
What? So
Yeah,
why did Carolina just? That's ridiculous. I don't know why North
yeah.
Carolina just missed out on this, but we
Well,
did not get the day off after the Super Bowl, and we had to go to
yeah.
school.
Wisconsin bleeds football, so that I did not go to. I was a senior in high school when the Packers won the Super Bowl, and I did not go to school the next day after that. And then when there was just other random times throughout my childhood where we wouldn't go to school because of that.
Oh well, we wouldn't go to like yeah, okay, I understand that. Maybe if Duke and UNC faced off in like the Final Four in the championship, that because you know that especially where I was in the Triangle, football didn't really matter. What really mattered was college basketball. That was the thing that everyone paid attention to. So maybe if that ever happened, that would be the case. But we did not get school off the day after the Panthers made the Super Bowl, and I didn't really care because I wasn't a Panthers fan. I think that was a blowout too by Denver, so I'm pretty sure I fell asleep early during that Super Bowl as well. Um, let's talk about the fact that the Bears announced that they will build the offense around Fields. What does this mean to you? Because I think it is a little bit of an interesting quote from them.
Yeah, the quote was also headlined by the title, "We're gonna take the North and keep it," or something like that. Um,
Oh,
Good luck. I mean, I don't know. I know that that was a shot at the Packers, but there are still other teams in the division.
when
So
you said
I
that,
don't
okay, sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. I'm just one of the like yes, Fields is going to improve from last year. I think it's pretty easy to say that, but he also I don't think he's 100% ready yet. But yeah, I mean they have definitely some solid pieces. Just interested to see what they do with Andy Dalton, Allen Robinson, Nick Foles, because they're sitting on a lot of money that's kind of dead. And I don't think that unless you think like a guy like Nick Foles or Andy Dalton goes to Tampa and they play there and try to run that thing back, I don't know. I mean, those are options. A lot of those teams and Vikings are in this conversation too. They're just kind of like, what do we do with Cousins at this point, right? So I don't know. It's gonna be a weird division. I wouldn't doubt like if Rodgers does not come back. By the way, latest news is that they're optimistic about him coming back. That was like from a meeting 2 days ago or something.
Interesting.
But we're like he's not going to be Packers quarterback in 2 or 3, 4 or 5 years. So I could easily see this be a situation where the NFC North is the worst division of football for the next half decade.
It's very much giving off 2020 NFC East vibes,
It
where
does, yeah.
the Cowboys were able to win it at 7-9, I think, or something ridiculous. Like, or maybe it's a Washington football team. I don't remember. Regardless, it's giving off those NFC East vibes to me. So we'll have to see what happens with the NFC North, but definitely seems like one of the weaker divisions in football as of right now. Anything else around the NFL? If not, we get to talk about NBA and get to do our favorite segment on Tuesdays, which is temperature gauge.
No. I think that the only thing we're waiting for football is the announcement for the Jaguars, right? That's it.
Yes, I think so at least. Do they have any like leads of who might take that job?
No, that's been pretty quiet.
Yeah, so should be interesting to see who takes it, but it's kind of a wait and see approach there. All right, let's talk about the NBA. Recap what happened last night. 3v3 ended up screwing us in cash, which really pissed me off. We saw Tyrese Maxey go absolutely bananas in a game with the Sixers where they beat the Grizzlies in OT without Joel Embiid. Just kind of shows that even without Ben Simmons, this Sixers team is starting to look a little bit like a powerhouse, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean they really are. Sorry, I'm just reading the chat. We forgot to mention that um, Jim Harbaugh of Minnesota. There's
Yes.
some stuff going on there. McCown also was supposed to like interview for a few jobs. But yeah, I mean, good luck. I don't know. I'm not buying the Harbaugh thing. I don't think he plays or he coaches. Like, why? I mean, Michigan was, I don't know, maybe he saw the top and he was like, I don't like where this is headed. So, but you're set for life in Michigan. Why leave? I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, let's talk about NBA. Yeah, I don't know. I think that there was the biggest thing for me in looking at the NBA this morning after watching last night was that there are several teams that are on some pretty crazy win streaks for the end of January and into February. Like usually we don't see this kind of thing, but the Sixers have won 5 in a row after last night. The Suns won 10 in a row. The Warriors have won 6 in a row. The Nuggets have won 5. You're starting to see these teams separate themselves from everybody else. And I mean, man, the Suns, first team to 40 wins. We should track to see when the fastest, like I know that they're not in first in this category, but like you got to have, I mean, hitting 40 wins at this time of the year is pretty good.
Yeah, kind of insane, and kind of makes you lean towards this could definitely be a team that wins 60 plus games this year. They could have less than 20 losses, which would be absolutely bananas. But it feels like it's in the cards for this Suns team because they've just been so dominant. I mean, 10-game win streak right now. They've looked absolutely amazing. So it'll be interesting to see what else they can do throughout the year and what that schedule looks like for the rest of the year, too, after the All Star break. And also, last thing, are they going to make any moves? You know, this Suns team, they do have some pieces off of the bench where you could see them move a few guys to potentially get even better players, and that just makes that team even more scary.
Yeah, they definitely highlight tonight's NBA slate. They take on the Brooklyn Nets. The game right now is Phoenix minus 5.5, with the total being at 229.5. I saw something that, I mean, I don't think Harden's expected to play, so it should be the Kyrie Irving show, right?
Yes, I don't think he's. Well, it doesn't say he's out on the injury report yet, so he's a game time decision technically. We'll have to
All right.
see what exactly happens there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I like Phoenix here anyway. But yeah, they do definitely. The Suns have a tough run here over the next 5 games. They have the Nets, they have the Hawks, Wizards, Bulls, Sixers, and Bucks to kind of get close to the NBA All Star break. So it should be interesting. I do think you're right. I think this team wins 55 games easily, and maybe they get close to that 60 mark. So we'll see. And then they have the Golden State Warriors, who had come off a really big win last night, thanks to Steph Curry, who we'll talk about next year. They're only 2 games behind them, so we'll see how it goes, and we'll see because I think we're going to get to a point where it's going to be we're it's the calm before the storm, and we're waiting for the arms race to start between the Warriors and the Suns, and I think that they're both going to make some moves here soon because both teams need help in the worst way in their front courts.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you don't see DeAndre Ayton get healthy at some point. I mean, like it feels like he's just been out for so long now, and if he's not able to get healthy, yeah, you can run Bismack, but I'm sure you could use some help in that category as well. So I don't know. I'm really looking forward to that Suns and Sixers games. I feel like that's a potential game where you, depending on what moves the Sixers make at the trade deadline, you could see that be a potential early finals matchup, which would be, I think, a pretty good finals overall, seeing those two teams. So I don't know. There's a lot of exciting games for that Suns team, and should be interesting to see them play against the Nets tonight on TNT.
Yeah, it's going to be great to watch. There's always the chance that the line is what it is there, but I don't know. I kind of lean Phoenix starts to get. I don't know. Phoenix is just a better team right now. Maybe they have a statement win here. Who knows? But I'm putting all my chips on Phoenix probably tonight.
Yeah, Suns -5. Is that really 5.5? That seems way
Yeah,
too low. I don't
it
know
seems
why.
low. It kind of tells me that James is probably playing, but I think I like Phoenix a lot anyway.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I'm on the Phoenix side as well. All right. What else do we have to talk about? There's still plenty that happened in the NBA last night. We saw Drummond look really good. Any other takeaways from that Sixers game that you had against the Grizzlies?
No, just a awesome, like it felt like a playoff atmosphere type of thing while watching it. Drummond went bananas. I think he finished the slate's highest scoring player. Not really a surprise. We knew what we like. It was a very obvious play at the end of the day, and I'm okay with being burned by it. I don't really care about saying that he was a bad tournament play because at the end of the day, like you still had to get. I don't know, like you were forced to do other things, and unfortunately for me, I played John Morant, which kind of, sunk me in terms of the amount of ceiling that he had. Even with overtime, he still didn't do ultimately that well in tournaments. So I stand by the take there. I mean, Tobias Harris was awesome. And I guess my argument still continues here. I think Drummond kind of takes the place of Embiid in the argument, and both of them had a very, very, very good game. So
Yeah.
that's the reason they won. And if any, if one of those two had struggled, I think we see a completely different scenario. Uh, but yeah, I think what I actually did not see what Jaren Jackson's final stat line was.
I don't think I saw either, actually.
Uh, it was okay, 18-7. All right,
Oh, okay.
I kind of figured he'd do a little bit better than that, but that's all right.
Yeah.
Desmond Bain, 34 points. Like, you got to be happy with that. I know that he got a little extra run in overtime, but dude's kind of blossoming here as we go along. At what point are the Grizzlies? I don't know if you know their cap situation, but what point do they have to make decisions? Next is it next year? Is it this year? Like, because eventually they're not going to be able to keep Ja, Dylan Brooks, Bain, Jaren Jackson all together.
Yeah, I think the decision for Ja comes this summer. Um, it's going to be an expensive decision to make,
Well, you're
especially.
keeping him.
Yeah, well, we're keeping him, right? It's just a matter of like, are we going to keep some of these auxiliary guys? Um, main guy I think of is a guy like Dylan Brooks. Do you really need to be paying him as much as you are second highest paid player on the team? Steven Adams, another guy that's getting paid the most on the whole entire team, $17 million. Yes, he's a good player, but is he worth 17 mil? Not exactly sure. Um,
Yeah.
there's a lot of interesting names on this list that are getting paid a lot of money. Kyle Anderson, a guy who's really not playing that much, is getting paid almost $10 million. So you definitely have some room to open up some spots to get that cap space. But Desmond Bain's going to cost a pretty penny whenever his rookie option is up, and we all know that John Morant's going to get a max most likely. So there's going to be some cap problems that they probably run into, especially with the fact that Desmond Bain not next I think it's next year. No, the year after next, where he needs to get re-signed, and that should be interesting.
Yeah, it really that's a team to watch for me because if they make the right moves moving forward, their next 3 to 5 years are really, really solid. So, and it's another one of those things where it is a smaller market compared to most, especially in the West.
Yeah.
So, I do think that if they can make and continue to be a 3 or 4 seed for the years to come, they will attract trade. They will attract trade destinations and free agency moves. And I think that there's a really cool little little nucleus going around there. I just kind of um, got sidetracked because I just saw a report from Bobby Marks of ESPN this morning saying that Los Angeles Lakers roster shakeup is not coming this trade deadline.
Oh, interesting. They're gonna stick it out. That's gonna be interesting to see what happens there. I'm definitely curious to see what we do at the trade deadline. Maybe it's a small trade deadline for us, but who knows? All right. Let's talk about the Warriors game. Warriors were fighting tooth and nail with the Rockets last night and ended up coming out on top thanks to an amazing fourth quarter from Steph Curry. I think he ended up scoring like 20 points in the fourth. He went absolutely
Yep.
bananas. It was definitely a closer game than I think a lot of people expected it to be.
Yeah, he was chalk, right?
Yeah, major chalk.
Yeah, it's kind of what I assumed. Um, I was watching. I didn't really pay attention much until the fourth quarter because I was intrigued because he wasn't really doing that well through three
No,
quarters,
he wasn't.
DFS wise, and the game was close, like you predicted, and they were able to keep things within um, a pretty decent margin up till Curry went bananas in the fourth quarter. It looks like they were even down at one point, right? Like they
Yep,
were
they
down in the
were.
fourth quarter.
Yes, they were.
So the best the best thing that I didn't even see, I didn't really even pay attention to during the game, but I saw this morning was just the stone cold locked in face. And then KPJ is the reason that they lost that game last night because he poked the bear, and you don't do that to Curry, especially like I know it's a regular season game on the road, but like, what kind of audacity do you have to try to get into Steph's head? Because
Yeah,
that totally backfired. That was a rookie mistake on him.
yeah. I mean, it's the vet teaching the young guy what exactly is happening in the league and who owns the league and well, not owns the league, but who is one of the best players in the league. And you can never discount Steph, and I think that's what KPJ did a little bit. And clearly, like you said, it definitely backfired. We saw Christian Wood have a big game for this Rockets team as well. And, I had that call in the podcast, and I wish I played it a little bit more because it definitely worked out. So that game was super interesting, and Yeah, it was a really solid game to watch, actually, and fun to watch Steph be Steph for once.
Yeah, let me hear your analysis on the fact that there's only two Warriors players that saw more than 32 minutes yesterday, and those two were Curry and Wiggins. All-Star Wiggins, now that I can call him that. Uh,
Ugly,
I will
ugly,
continue to
ugly,
make a.
ugly.
I'll make a reason to call him All-Star Wiggins every single day for the rest of the year.
Disgusting.
Um, yeah, I guess I'm just curious to hear, like, first of all, DFS, they're never going to raise his price tag above 6,500. It's just not going to
Never,
be a thing.
never.
And as long as Clay's around, and before Dre comes back, I'm just interested to see what they do. And I think that they're still doing this, like, I still think that the Warriors are doing this tryout period where they're giving random guys opportunities to shine and get time, and that's kind of how they're shaping this roster moving forward. So you saw Moses Moody start yesterday, play 25 minutes. He did okay. He didn't do amazing by any means. You saw Jordan Poole kind of disappoint with 26 minutes and limited production. Gary Payton wasn't really there on offense, which he never really is if he's not starting. You saw JTA actually get 21 minutes while Kuminga got 11. So, I mean, like, how do you evaluate this Golden State Warriors team? Because it feels like it's kind of hard to actually put a finger on it right now.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult, but I think they're doing the right thing for the team overall, considering the fact that you're dealing with all these injuries because you've been playing guys so many minutes to start out the year. Um, Playing lower some of these minutes for these guys, getting a few, making it almost what? It's almost a 9-man rotation at this point if you include Kuminga's 11 minutes. Making it a 9-man rotation makes a ton of sense just to make sure to spread it out, give guys equal run. Like you said, kind of a test out period to see once they get to the playoffs who can they really rely on. And I think they're realizing who they can rely on. You know, those guys like Jordan Poole. I wouldn't be surprised to see more Moses Moody because he played really well last night. I think Kuminga's kind of in the doghouse for that for getting ejected a few games ago, or not ejected. I think
Sure.
he got a tech, and Kerr sent him straight to the bench, and I think he's still in the doghouse for that. So we got to keep that in mind from now on. That Kuminga's basically unplayable until we see him somewhat get out of the doghouse.
Sure. I completely agree with that. On the other side, do you think we're almost at halfway point through the year? Um, I mean, thoughts on Jalen Green right now? Like, do you think it was worth that high of a draft pick? Do you feel like it's going to pay off at some point? I think right now they're being very conservative with their young players, and I do think that they need to let go. Like, I saw, like, Eric Gordon is like on the top 10 of players that should be moved to a contender this season. I think that we're waiting for that to happen, but pretty limited production in over 32 minutes last night from Green.
I think Jalen Green is one of the biggest busts. He will be in that. I think similar to Markel Fultz type of scenario where you look back and say, "Wow, the guys around him did absolutely incredible things." I mean, what did he get taken with the third pick? Is that right?
I believe so.
I think so. So it was Cade, it was Mobley, it was Green, and then it was
And
Jalen
then
Suggs.
Suggs. Yep.
Yep, and the four, and then I think no, maybe Giddy was a little bit later. I don't know who was drafted with the fifth pick. Regardless, though, you look at that group, and obviously the Rockets couldn't move up and get Mobley or Cade. That would have been the ideal scenario, but I think you can safely say that Suggs is the guy that really should have been in that pick, most likely.
Sorry, yeah, we butchered that a little bit.
Uh oh.
Jalen Green's number 2 overall, so even
Okay.
worse.
Yeah. So
And
this So like Mobley was the I thought I was thinking like they had a chance at Mobley. Why do I keep thinking they had a chance at Mobley? They did have a chance at Mobley. They shouldn't have
they
taken
did.
Mobley with the two. Um, you could have ran him and I mean you're seeing Cleveland do it pretty successfully right now, running Allen and Mobley. You could have
Yep.
ran Wood and Mobley at 4 and 5 and been I mean, I can lay out the whole lineup. KPJ, Eric Gordon, Jay Sean Tate at the 3, Mobley at the 4, and then Christian Wood at the 5. You're not winning a ton of games, but you definitely have a more solid lineup than you have now. We're gonna look back and look at Jalen Green and say, "Wow, that was an absolutely awful pick." Because I think he's one of the bigger busts, and he's gonna be one of those guys that it's really gonna discourage other teams from taking G League athletes because that's what Jalen Green came out of. He came out of the G League, and it just
He
seems
did.
like it's not working.
Yep. They decided to pick Jalen Green at the number 2 and then move Daniel Tice to the 5. And now he doesn't play anymore.
Yeah.
So it's not working out well. Mobley with the 3rd pick, Scotty Barnes with the 4th pick to Toronto,
Oh,
and then
wow.
Suggs was number 5 with Giddy at 6.
I mean, like you look at 4, 5, and 6. All of those guys are. I'm not going to say perennial all stars at all because none. I don't think any of them are perennial all stars, but all of them carry much more potential than Jalen Green does at the moment for me. So I don't know. I've always been a little bit down on Jalen Green. You know my love for Giddy. I definitely was one of the first people on the Scotty Barnes stuff. And Suggs, I've never really liked either, but he's proved himself since coming back from that wrist injury. So
Yep.
I thought Suggs was going to be along that category of being another bust, but he seems to be improving with that Orlando squad. So even he would have been a better
Yeah.
pick than Green.
I'm still on the side of giving Suggs a chance because I do think that he made a mistake coming out this past year. But you can make the case and the argument that getting to the national championship game last year and playing in that and being that dude in the whole March Madness tournament, that his stock would probably never be higher.
Yeah.
Maybe that doesn't work out, but like I think we still give him a chance, and he does play for Orlando, so that's never going to be seen as a high regard thing until they're good again. But yeah, I mean, looking back, I'm more I'm a little bit of a Cade Cunningham hater. I
Oh,
have been kind
why? What?
of,
What is
not,
this?
I loved him in college. I just Detroit is just a dumpster fire, man. Like I don't know. I like my favorite out of this whole group right now is Evan Mobley in terms of
Same.
future. So
Yeah, I've been the biggest Evan Mobley fan, so I'm right there with you. I would take Mobley over Cunningham most days, just because I believe what that Cavs organization is building, and I think they're. If you talk about a Sexton's a part of that team this year, that team's a top 4 team in the East most likely with the amazing defense they have. So, and a lot of those guys are locked down, which is exciting. Yeah, I would agree.
yeah, so I mean, I still like I said, I loved him in college. I just think that Detroit is. I would have rather seen him go somewhere else. That's all I'm saying. And I just don't have any faith that they put the right pieces around him to make him stand out. He will probably carry this team to several playoff runs in a row, and I do think that he's a potential perennial All Star. It's just when are we going to see that? So I don't really know when that's going to be.
I mean, here's my thing. Do you really put him with the Lamellos, the Jaws, the Lucas of the world? Because that's what he has to compete with for the rest of his career. And
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm still watching him a lot. I don't think I have a final analysis on Cade quite yet, but I'm leaning towards the side that he's not going to be at that top tier with those guys that I just mentioned.
it's tough to do this right now just because he's in Detroit.
Yeah, that is
That's
true.
where I'll leave that. For right now. We'll revisit this, obviously. It's not going away anytime soon. But I will say, I mean, we're getting a little bit off track here, but they are going to be one of the temperature gauge teams. I've seen a
Nice,
lot of stuff, a lot of slander about Luca lately and the drop off. Um,
interesting.
I don't know if you've heard or seen this, but he's getting a lot of shit this season for first it was the conditioning thing, then it was like is are the Mavericks just going to be forever this perennial team that doesn't make it past the second round of the playoffs? Like they haven't really made moves that have helped Luca. He has to do it all by himself, and apparently his card stock's falling like crazy. So
Really.
I don't know. Have you heard any of this? And what do you think about Luca and the Mavs as we transition to the temperature gauge?
I think this Mavs team is a team that really struggled at the beginning of the year, but is really turning a corner. I mean, you look at some of the defensive numbers that they're putting up right now, and they're kind of otherworldly. This is one of the top defensive teams in the league. And, if you don't have KP go down to injury early on in the year, you don't have Luka be out for some games, this team's completely different. Not to mention, I think they kind of have their de facto third piece in Jalen Brunson. I don't know if you saw this report
Yeah,
come out, but they said that it would take a whole, I forget the exact quote. It was something like a what are you doing type of deal to try to acquire Jalen Brunson from this team. So I think
really.
it would take like a true all-star to try to acquire Jalen Brunson. And I agree. You watch Jalen Brunson, and I know a lot of people don't think of him as a top tier player. I'm not going to say he's an all-star or anything, but I think he's a good number 3 in this system.
I think Jalen Brunson could be an all star. Maybe not a starter ever, but I
Maybe not
think
a
he could
starter,
be.
but maybe a replacement. I could see it. Okay,
Or
yeah,
does he? Okay, so his ceiling right now is capped because of Luca
yeah,
and KP. Do you, if you're the Mavs, like you obviously, I think you keep him this year, but at some point there's going to be some friction unless you make him a starter and you make one of the best backcourts in the league. I don't know. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But until they make that decision, he's going to have his ceiling capped. I could easily see him going to a different team and running like being the number one point starter.
yeah.
And I think he has awesome potential. I'm not going to say all star starter, but I will say he's an all star level player if he's given the right opportunity.
Yeah, I guess I can get behind it. I'm a big fan of Jalen Brunson, especially that just reaffirmed my take too. Seeing that report this morning from the Mavs saying that it would take a miraculous deal to try to get Jalen Brunson, it just kind of proves to me that yeah, this guy is that next level talent, and he's an elite scorer. He's an elite scorer. He's an elite passer. He's great at ball handling. Like he really does everything for your team. It's going to be interesting to see, man. I agree. If he goes to his own team and gets his spot where he can kind of take the point guard roles, it would certainly be interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah, like I said, I think he's capped right now, and we didn't even talked about the pace of the Mavericks, which is dead last in the league. I mean, you put him on a fast run and gun team, and I think that his numbers will skyrocket. So we'll see if that ever happens. I think they'll be very cautious to ever trade him away, but I think that we could get to a point talent wise where the money doesn't make sense for him to stay there anymore, especially if they don't, maybe they try. Because if the Mavs, and maybe this is why they're not trying to get some other pieces for Luca because they think that they already have one. That's a
Yeah.
good way to look at it if you're optimistic about that situation. But right now, they are number 6 in the West. They are several games, 3.5 to be exact, above the Timberwolves, and they are only a half a game below the Nuggets. Right now, I mean, they're better at home than on the road. And let's just check their schedule out because I think that we need to talk about like this. This should be one of the teams that we see do a lot of things heavily at the trade deadline. They do face the Thunder, then the Sixers, Hawks, and Pistons, and then Clippers twice over the next 6 games. So lots of favorable matchups in there. We could see them jump a seed or two. They might not be able to catch the top 4 seeds in the West, but I think that they're able to pass the Nuggets and possibly the Jazz. After they've kind of been tumbling over the last 10. We haven't even talked about this really. 2-8 for Utah in the last 10.
It's only a matter of time when you're missing all of your key players due to injuries, including having your star player out due to concussions multiple times this year. It's a rough case for this Jazz team. And finally, what we're seeing is that this Jazz team, the thing that they're known for is their defense isn't holding up right now. Over the last month, they're in the bottom third of the league when it comes to their defense. Over the whole entire year, they're a very middle of the league type of team on defense. So it'll be interesting to see what this Jazz team does, but I could see them continue to fall down the rankings here, especially when you have a Nuggets team that's red hot, has Jokic there. You have a Mavericks team that is finally starting to put it together on the defensive side. And yeah, I don't think anyone else competes at the bottom of the West, but it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see.
Can we see a scenario where the Timberwolves make the 5 seed, man? Because it's there. It's
Yeah,
they're getting laid up for it right now.
they are. It at least could potentially be a spot where they could get the 6 seed, or I mean, like it's incredible to see this Timberwolves team turn around to see that they're actually playing really well so far this year.
Yeah, the Anthony Edwards experiment continues to work.
Yeah, it certainly does continue to
Uh,
work.
that's that's even though it might not all be him, that's what they're going to call it because they didn't start winning until they got him.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Um, so we just talked about the Mavs. I mean, temperature gauge for this team, like I think it's pretty optimistic, right? Like it's not you're not really hitting the panic button anymore.
No. 7 or 8 for this team. I feel good about where they're at. They just need to stay healthy. That's the main thing. KP's out with another injury. I think it's minor, so it shouldn't be a big problem. But having Kristaps healthy and able to play 30 plus minutes is important for this team to be able to get up into the upper half of the playoffs.
I agree. We're not going to cover any more West teams because, frankly, the disparity is crazy. And I don't want to talk about the Clippers or Lakers anymore
Thank you.
because everybody under the 9 seed is just complete garbage.
Yeah.
So it's been crazy to watch and see that unfold because it took not even like I don't know, not even like 2 or 3 weeks ago. It wasn't this bad, and now it's getting to a point where it's pretty rough to look at.
Mhm.
As far as the East goes, I think things are still really, they're really bunched up at the top in the first 5, 6 seeds, and you're going to see a lot of shakeups here. As again, we're going to have to call this an arms race soon because I think that all 5, 6, even the Hornets at 7, are going to make some major roster changes in order to keep up. We've seen Brooklyn lose 4 in a row now that they've been dealing with this Harden and Durant stuff. So I guess we'll leave it. We'll start at the 6th seed with the Nets, 29-20. They're a little bit out of the top 5 cluster that is 31, 32 wins. They have 29. They're playing a lot better on the road, which kind of speaks volumes to the Kyrie thing, even though he hasn't been with them on the road that much. What do you think about this Nets team? And I think that, it's pretty obvious that they're going to be one of those teams that flips. They might be the Lakers version of the Lakers this year with the roster flip that could happen.
Yeah, I could see a lot of trades happening here. Everything is so condensed, right? Within these top 6 seeds, there's a matter of 2 games separating the 1 seed from the 6 seed. So all it takes is 2 losses from the Bulls, and things completely change. It's going to be exciting to watch what the arms race looks like between all 6 of these teams. But I agree with you. Nets probably the most likely out of this whole bunch to go out there, trade for some type of piece, get guys on the buyout market. You're going to see them be really active to try to fill the holes that have been left over by KD having to sit. We got the news yesterday that KD's going to sit until after the All Star break too. So I mean, it's going
Yeah,
to be a while
that's
before you
rough.
get him back. Who knows how serious this James Harden's hand sprain is, and who knows how serious James Harden is about leaving. So like, you've got to start thinking about the future too when it comes to these trades. That's why getting a young piece could be in the it would be a good idea for this Nets team.
Yeah, the Nets are in a really interesting spot because for a few reasons. The first one being like the Durant decision is clearly we are just going to hold this thing out. We can keep our team can remain a playoff team, and as long as Durant and James Harden and Kyrie Irving are healthy for the playoffs, we can beat any team no matter what seed we are. So I think that they're going to take that approach and it could work out for him. And that would be one of the most terrifying things. And you'll start to see these 2, 3, 4 seeds quiver in their boots and try to shake around, lose games on purpose to not get the Nets in the first round because that could be disastrous, especially for a team like the Cavs, who isn't really used to being in this spot over the last few years. That would be like the icing on the cake if the Sixers faced the Nets in the first round and they got eliminated like that. That would be awesome to see.
You want to know what
Um,
that whole situation sounds like? It sounds like the Lakers last year. Everyone was
it does.
saying, like, Lakers were saying, oh, we'll just take the 7 seed. We just need to get into the playoffs and then we'll be able to win. Well, they got swept. They didn't get swept. They got gentlemen swept in the first round. You try to play those out, like those scenarios, and they work on paper. But when it comes to actually playing, it just makes a ton of a difference, I think, just confidence wise, getting into that 7 seed spot or getting into a lower seeded spot. So I don't know. I say it as a fan from experience of it last year, where I was like, "Oh, we're fine as a 7 seed. Who cares? We just need to get into the playoffs." It doesn't work like that. These top tier teams are top tier teams for a reason, and carrying that winning momentum into the playoffs is a real thing.
Yep. Speaking of top tier, the Bulls right now are they still haven't played as many games as everybody else. Just keep that in mind. I'm really interested to see how that shapes out because they had that stint early on in the year where they missed like 3 to 5 games due to COVID protocol stuff. So, do we know how they're making that up, and like how is that going to impact the last half of their season?
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it is going to impact this team's last half of the season. The thing that I worry about with this Bulls team is, are you going to get healthy anytime soon? Because we're finally seeing the big three come back into play with Levine, DeMar, and with Vooch. But now Lonzo's out for an extended period of time. I know they like using AO for good periods of a game. They play him out there for 40 minutes and feel comfortable with it. But like, that's not going to win you championship, that's probably not going to win you playoff games either. So, like, getting Lonzo Ball back on this team, returning this starting lineup to where it was when it was very dominant at the beginning of the year is important for them. And we kind of just got to wait and see if when they're going to get healthy, because we haven't seen this team healthy in a really long time, it feels like.
Yeah, and it just goes to pretty much the East mantra right now of just staying above water. That's basically what these top six
Yeah,
teams are doing.
seriously. Yeah,
Let's
all
talk
of them.
about teams that are kind of like on the fringe of the bubble here. A team that we've talked about a lot. We talked about last night too. The Atlanta Hawks. We talked about them several times on this temperature gauge, but they're 7-3 in their last 10, and they technically are sitting in a position to be in the play-in, or at least getting close to it. So I don't know. I mean, Trae Young's health is obviously most important here, but what does Atlanta do? Because they had a surprising trade to send Cam Reddish to New York, which again I was kind of confused as to why that happened. Maybe it is the RJ stuff, and there's underlying reasons for it. But what do you think that the Atlanta Hawks do? Because I don't know if they really like that trade might bite them later on in the season.
Well, the sad thing about this Hawks team is that, like, you're finally see them taking strides on the defensive front, but you can make the case that the Celtics and Raptors are doing the exact same thing, and the Hornets too. Hornets are since the new year, they're a top 5 defensive team. Since the new year, the Celtics are the second best defensive team, and since the new year, the Raptors are a top 10 defensive team. So, like, all of these bubble teams are taking that step forward that they all needed to on the defensive side of the ball. I just feel like the Raptors don't really have the firepower to compete with these top tier teams. I mean, do you think that Trae Young, John Collins, and Clint Capella can really compete with LaMelo Ball in a fully healthy Hornets team? I don't think so. I think they come up short. The Raptors, when fully healthy and when running those 6-man rotations, has been pretty deadly. I mean, running those 6 guys that are uber talented in Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, Gary Trent, OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, and then whoever you want out of the bench has been deadly, man. Nick Nurse has kind of found the key to this team, not using their role players anymore that they don't need to use. And then the Celtics, I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown is the most underrated combo in the league. And you'll continue to see this team play excellent defense with Horford and Robert Williams. So, like, I think that, Atlanta is taking strides towards being successful, but unless one of these teams get knocked off due to an injury or something, the 3 teams ahead of them have such a big advantage with their overall rosters that I don't really see how Atlanta competes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel a little bit better about Boston than I do Atlanta, which is saying a lot too, because
Yep.
Boston is kind of really hard to figure out right now. Both those teams, Hawks and Celtics, have played terribly on the road this year. Much, much better, or at least in Boston's case, much better at home. I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out. I mean, this is going to be a very weird playoff stint for the East. I don't know. I have a hard time thinking that there's any front runner at all at this point.
Yeah. No, it truly feels like an open spot. Someone can take the cake with the right added piece. Which kind of makes you think, like, I know that the 76ers have come out and said, like, yeah, we're probably holding Ben Simmons till the offseason. I feel like you have a real chance if you make the right push. I mean, Ben Simmons is the biggest trade asset that any of these top 6 teams have. Why would you not trade Ben Simmons for something at the trade deadline? Just trade him over to the Kings and get role players. I mean, getting Barnes, Healed, and Holmes would be humongous for this team. Even if you repackaged Holmes into something else, since you already have Drummond and Embiid, getting wing players like Buddy Hield and Barnes could really make the difference at the end of the day, could really elevate this 76ers team to be the top team in the East. But I just don't think you see them do it. And it's going to be a really wasted opportunity by Daryl Morey.
Yeah, I don't think Ben Simmons gets moved this season either. I think
Yeah.
it's an off-season thing. And I think it's pretty well not clear, but it's definitely trending in that direction at this point. And we thought everybody was like, we thought this was going to happen. I don't know, like before the season even started last year. So I don't know. We'll see how it shapes out. We do have this team on tonight's slate, the Washington Wizards, 23-26. They've lost the last 5 games in a row, and they are 11-point dogs to Milwaukee tonight. I mean, Bradley Beal, we got the word that he's going to miss the next 2 games, I believe.
Yep.
It's just, man, you feel bad for the guy, but he chose to stay here.
Yeah, he definitely did choose to stay here. There's not much you can do about it. Since he is off of this team, it should be interesting to see what this Wizards team is able to do with Dinwiddie. We've seen Kuzma really step up in spots where we've seen Bradley Beal out. Thing is, tough matchup against the Bucks. I'm curious, where does BetOnline have this one with the spread?
11 points.
That's rough. Yeah, I expected something similar to that. They really have no one that they can throw at Giannis. I mean, try to throw Kyle Kuzma at Giannis. I dare you. It's going to be a rough day at the office if you do. So should be interesting to see what that looks like and what ownership looks like from a Bucks front.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Bucks
By the
could sit
way,
somebody. We'll see.
breaking news on the show. We continue to complete our resolutions. Caleb Williams has announced that he is going to USC. He will be in classes today. And Jared upset visibly because I know there was a lot of rumors about Williams to Wisconsin, but I know that got ruled out yesterday. And it seemed like this was kind of the obvious choice from the get go, right?
I guess college football's rigged, man.
Yeah, college football certainly is rigged. It's always been known, and USC. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what USC looks like. I don't know what their receiving core looks like. Did Drake London end up going to the? I don't know if Drake London ended up going to the draft, but if he didn't, he'll be a stud next year.
Yeah, I have nothing more to say about this.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Anything else for the NBA? If not, we should move on to NCAA and talk about some college hoops.
Yeah, we'll just recap what happened last night. Pretty big wins for some teams.
Yeah, definitely. Duke ends up getting a big win last night, and Baylor ends up barely getting a big win. This team continues to stay, or was it Baylor? Yeah, Baylor was in trouble last night. Almost ended up losing. That
Yep.
game came down to the wire, and it should be interesting to see what exactly happens with this Baylor team because we saw them lost during the weekend. They're now all the way down to the 8th seed. Are they going to fall more because of this close win? Who knows? But we did see Paulo Banchero literally carry this Duke team on his back to get them a win. I was telling Jared about this that I watched the whole Duke game last night because I had a little bit of time, and Paulo looked amazing. I thought he looked this was his key game so far this season, the best he's looked since Gonzaga, most likely. He had more field goals made than the rest of the starting five combined, which is absolutely phenomenal. He looked like he was in a completely different league than everyone else on the floor last night.
Yeah, looked good. Stats looked great. I mean, I think the defense is more impressive than anything against
Yeah.
this Notre Dame team. And I know that they haven't been as good this year, but Duke, continues to rise. And you have a big game on Saturday, man. It's
Yep.
it's the game. It's the game. So
The game.
we'll talk about this more on Friday, but for now, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I hate watching these games, dude. These are like the least I like love them because I love to win them, but like when we lose them, there is no worse feeling than seeing my Snapchat story just filled with UNC fans calling Duke puke. So it'll be fun to watch that one. I don't know. Duke's clearly a level ahead of UNC this year, but I'll knock on some wood just in case. Anything else that you want to cover from last night? Really, not a lot of games last night that we had.
No, not too much top 25 stuff. Auburn remains number one. Kentucky slides all the way up to, I believe, three, which is a big win or a big dub for them over the last week. We moved a lot of spots up in the top 10. So we'll just keep an eye on this as we move forward.
Yep, for sure. All right, NHL Blind Dogs. I won last night to go 8-9. I am on a hot or 8-9. It sounds right. 8-9. Sure. I don't know what your record is, but I know you said you lost last night, so I
Yeah,
imagine it's going south.
yeah. I think I lost 3-2, which
Oh,
is fantastic. So I'm at the point where I need wins bad.
uh
So
huh.
we'll we'll see if I can make this any better tonight. Big slate as usual on
Ooh, yeah.
Tuesdays, and I don't really like anything that's I don't love anything that sticks off the page right now. Some massive favorites. By the way, I think I was hoping that neither of us took. I think the Florida Panthers put up like 8 goals last night, so I was hoping neither of us took one of the underdogs there because that would have been embarrassing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, 8-4 last night.
Sheesh.
Anyway, let's get this going here and get out of here. I will take the Vancouver Canucks at plus 154.
Sweet. I'm gonna take the Man, I've been trying to. You just said the Panthers scored 8 last night, right? So probably shouldn't take the Rangers against them. Um, we're gonna go with the Dallas Stars plus 107 at home against the Calgary Flames. Let's hopefully hit. Hey, if I get the 500, I'm becoming the official NHL better for Roto Radar. I hope you know.
There you go. Well, you can take that title from me. I don't think I deserve it anymore.
Yeah, I think I can straight up snatch that title from you. All right, Jared, we've been here for an hour. It's been awesome talking through everything that happened yesterday and a little bit this morning as well. Any final notes for the people watching?
No, I mean Tom Brady retired, as we may or may not have predicted on the stream by Josh
Yeah,
last week. So, uh, you're going to see more and more about that over the coming weeks. And again, I think that um, he deserves to take a break.
he certainly does deserve to take a break. Big shout out to our new addition to the Roto Radar family. Biggie is now an official, or not NHL. He's not an NHL pro analyst. He is a pro analyst though for us, and we couldn't be more excited to have him on the team. So just wanted to give a quick shout out to him, and yeah, can't wait to see what he's going to be able to do. Shout out to our friends over at BetOnline.ag who help keep everything running for the stream here. We greatly appreciate them. You can sign up with them using the link that we can provide to you guys if you shoot us over a DM on Discord or on Twitter. We're happy to provide you with that link, and you can go sign up with them and use some of my NHL blind dogs because man, I've been on a little bit of a hot streak over here. But that is all for today's show. Thank you all for hanging out. As always, my name is Joshua Reimer. Good morning and good skill.